My name is Liz Wagner, and I am Associate Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. And so today we're going to be talking about planning for graduate school, where to apply, when to apply, and sort of the importance of professional experience. A little bit about myself, so you know sort of coming from my opinions and advice. I've been in graduate admissions for about 8 years. I spent 7 years working for an MBA program, so I did MBA admissions and working in a number of different capacities with MBA applicants. And now I've switched over to international affairs. The Fletcher School is an international affairs program. So I have about 8 years admissions experience and have spent a lot of time working with applicants, particularly applicants who come straight from undergrad and are looking and trying to figure out when to apply. I myself also have been there. I am a graduate of Boston University. I did my master's in higher education administration there and made the choice to wait to go to grad school rather than going straight for my undergrad for a number of different reasons. So I come at this with a number of different perspectives. So when we're talking about all of these different things. And what I thought we could do is talk about start with talking about how to figure out where to even begin to apply to graduate school, and then the value of potentially working before starting the programs to which you are applying. So first and foremost, how do you begin to select a school? What are some of the things you should be thinking about? I assume some of you are literally just in the very beginning stages of selecting your graduate school options. And I think it's really important to think about a number of different things. You really want to think about what degree the schools offer. Different programs offer different things. Some schools, like the program I work for, are standalone graduate school, very specific. Other schools, like Boston University, have a ton of different graduate school options. So you want to think about the different options that are offered. You want to think about location. Is it going to be a school that's maybe located in a city and is really hustling, bustling, but doesn't necessarily have a campus, or has certain things come with that? Others are going to be located in sort of college towns or more rural. And that's something that you should think about when you're selecting your grad school. Does location matter to you? And what are the things that are important? And I think one of the things I always suggest to anyone who's looking at graduate school is make a list of what's important to you. Make a list of the things that matter, whether it's location or degree offerings, or maybe it's size. Maybe you're someone who went to a really large undergraduate institution and you want a smaller program or a smaller size. Think about the university size, perhaps the school within the university, and then the class size. And that can be deceiving. At some of the biggest schools I went to, as I mentioned, Boston University, but my school at the School of Education was actually really small, and the average class size, I would say, for my program was about 10. So it's really sort of misleading sometimes because you think of Boston University as so large, but my program was really, really small. You also want to think about teaching style. Are you someone who likes online classes, hybrid classes, or in-person classes? What about cost? Some schools are going to cost a lot more than others, but also what does that mean for you as far as employment and opportunities and networking? So there's a number of different things to think about there. What kind of internships might you get from these graduate schools? What kind of clubs can you get involved in? What are the networking opportunities? Some programs are going to have a lot more networking opportunities than others. And then I also think about the requirements of the program and the culture. And I put culture last because I actually think it's the most important, because some schools are going to be really competitive, some programs are going to be really competitive, and some are not. Some schools, I think, get reputations for being really cutthroat, particularly in the MBA world, but others are not. And so I think it's really important to visit the schools that you're looking at, get a sense for what the culture is, and find out, is it collaborative? Is it really competitive? What is the culture, and where will you thrive? Are you someone that's going to really excel in a really competitive classroom, or are you someone that might not do so well in that environment? And really think about those things when you're selecting your school list. And you really want to think outside the box when you're thinking about graduate school. So first you want to think about what it is you want to do and the best degree to get you there. And then you want to start thinking about schools. And I would really encourage you to think about all the different schools out there. There's so many different schools, and there's a number of ways to learn about them. There's some great websites out there. There's a lot of schools attend graduate school fairs. One that is sort of universal is idealist.org, has a ton of different types of graduate degrees that go to these different graduate school fairs. But I think it's really important to first make the list of what's important to you you, and then go find the schools that match your list, that match the list that's important to you. You also really want to think about the curriculum that the schools offer. Different degree programs are going to have very different curricular options. Law school is very different than an MBA program, which might be very different than an education program or an international affairs program. You really want to think about the type of learning that you do best. Are you someone who wants practical learning, or are you more theory-based? Are you someone who likes a really structured curriculum? Or are you someone that likes flexibility and to be able to pick and choose the classes that best suit you and your goals? Does the program you are looking at have a strong focus? For example, with international affairs, are they known for security studies, or are they more known for human security or something like that? I would also encourage you to look at career tracks. Is the school known for certain things? I know certain MBA programs are known for being all about entrepreneurship or all about finance. So you want to think about your career tracks and whether the school is a good fit. You want to think about the class offerings and the opportunities that you have for things like, you want to think about the opportunity you have for things like elective options and things like that. You also want to think about career trends. Are you going to be able to get the jobs you want post-graduation? And lastly, I would think about international opportunities. One of the questions I've always gotten, no matter what role in admissions I've been in, is what international opportunities do you have? Can you go abroad? Can you do an exchange program? And I think it's important, particularly for students who haven't had the opportunity to do international coursework, to think about that when they're looking at that graduate program. Now, what are schools looking for? Obviously, this is really going to depend on the type of graduate program you're looking at. Each program is going to look for different things. My two areas of expertise are in the business and international affairs world, and I'm here to tell you that most programs are looking for work experience. That doesn't mean that all programs are looking for it, but it is something that I would say almost every graduate school is looking for in their applicants. We're also potentially looking for you to have taken certain coursework. Sometimes this is macro and microeconomics. Sometimes it's statistics. Sometimes it's something else. But more often than not, depending on the program, we are looking for you to have taken certain courses. The other thing we're looking for is students who are active and engaged community members in their own schools and who are going to be able to succeed academically. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that you can handle the academic rigor of our graduate program, regardless of what program that is. We never want to admit someone who won't succeed. And so that's something else that we're all looking at, regardless of the graduate degree type, when we're looking at applicants. As I mentioned along those lines, what's your academic capacity? Are you going to be able to do the courses? Can you learn what we teach? We're also looking for your professional experience and trajectory. If we're a program that really values work experience, we're going to wonder if you know where you want to go. I always tell applicants, I can't help you get to where you want to go if you don't know where that is. So we're really looking for people that are driven and goal-oriented and have some sort of idea of where they're going. The other thing that some programs are looking for are other things. For example, in international affairs programs, more often than not, we're looking for language skills or international experience. So again, that's going to vary by program, but I want to put the bug in your ear that that is something you want to think about and prepare for depending on the graduate degrees that you're looking for. Basic admissions requirements, again, this is going to vary across all of the different graduate programs out there, but almost universally everyone has an online application, typically with a fee. But I will note that a lot of schools waive application fees for a variety of different reasons. We waive them, for example, for returning Peace Corps volunteers. We waive them for students that have done certain things. So definitely check with each graduate school. One piece of advice I would say when it comes to admissions requirements, make a checklist for each graduate school that you are looking at and make sure that you have covered all of your bases. So maybe you're looking at both international affairs programs and MBA programs. So make sure you know what is required of each school because that may differ. Some schools might require the GRE. Other schools might require the GMAT. Some schools might not require them at all. So you really want to make sure you know what is required at each program that you're looking at. Most schools will require some sort of essay or personal statement. And I would say, from totally my own opinion, this is one of the most, if not the most important piece of the application. It's your opportunity to talk directly to your reader. And so I think it's sometimes a wasted opportunity on applicants, and I think it's really your opportunity to shine. Make sure you're answering the questions that each program asks. Do not try to do a one-size-fits-all application. It's not going to work. I can't tell you, literally, in my 8 years of experience, I have read so many essays where people talk about the wrong school. It happens more often than you think. So take your time with your essays and really focus on them. You also may be required to submit some sort of English level of proficiency. Sometimes it's the TOEFL or the IELTS. Other times it's the Pearson Test of English. It's going to vary by program. And waivers are going to vary by program. But it is important to know, again, what is required of the programs you're looking at. Letters of recommendation more often than not will be required as well. And again, talk to each school. Some are going to prefer academic letters. Others are going to prefer professional. Each program is going to be different. Some want a combination. The programs that I represent want a combination. So again, it's really important to make sure you know what is required of each degree program that you're looking at. Lastly, you do want to get your transcripts ready. Particularly for international students, you may need to have them certified or translated. You need to provide a key. And sometimes you may have gotten married and changed your name. And so it's important to really get those transcripts early, just so, again, you have everything ready to go when you do decide to apply to graduate school. So I mentioned in the beginning the importance of work experience. And all the time, I literally have spent the fall visiting various college campuses across the United States. And I meet all of these college students, particularly college seniors, and they say, I don't understand. Why do I need work experience before coming to your graduate school? Why work experience? What's so important about that? First of all, I would definitely say, at the end of the day, you've been in school your whole life. And it's really important to get out there and do the things you think you want to do to see if you like them. For example, when I was in college, I thought that I wanted to go to law school. And I thought my whole life was going to be a legal career. And then I took an education class, and I realized that what I really loved was higher education administration. And so I worked in higher ed for a while, and then I went back to grad school. But I would never have figured that out if I had gone straight to law school. Or maybe I would have, and I would have had it happen in the middle of law school, which isn't ideal. So first of all, I think it's important to find out what you like. If you're someone who you think wants to do development, go work in a developing country. Get on the ground training. It's going to help solidify your passions and your goals, and it's going to help you when it comes to figuring out what it is you really want to do. Also, it'll help you in the classroom. I know at the Fletcher School, we rely heavily on classroom discussion, and I think the students that do the best are those that have work experience and can draw upon those experiences. It's not to say you can't draw upon your internships or cooperative assignments, but really the people that are able to contribute are those that have sort of a couple of years of work experience under their belt and can draw upon the experiences that they've had. It also really provides theoretical practical experience in a theoretical framework within the classroom. So you're able to sort of understand the theories that we're teaching because you can relate back to the experiences you've had and say, oh, okay, this is how this theory relates to the work that I've done. And I think that that's a really important moment in graduate school. And it's one that sometimes our students that haven't had as much work experience miss out on because they don't have that experience to sort of put the theory into sort of framework. Lastly, I will say it does give you a competitive edge for internships and employment. Most of the employers, for example, that recruit at business schools and international affairs programs are assuming that you have work experience because they require it. And so a lot of programs will say you're competing against your peers for internships and employment, and many of those students are going to have work experience. And so it really helps when you're looking for jobs, and it helps for the recruiters that are coming to campus because they're going to look at you and say, oh, well, you don't have the 2 or 3 years of work experience that we require, plus the master's degree. And so you can't get the jobs you want. It's not to say you can't work for that company or organization, but I think sometimes students feel like they're not getting the jobs they want, and more often than not, it's because they don't have that resume that has the work experience coming into the program that they're doing. So what counts as work experience? That is a really hard question to answer. Typically, most graduate programs, when they define work experience, especially for MBA programs that report on that, we're looking at postgraduate full-time work. So if you go to a class profile on an MBA website for an MBA program, when they say work experience, they are just looking at postgraduate work experience. That's not, as I said, that doesn't mean we don't count internships and cooperative assignments, but when it comes to what sort of officially counts as work experience, we're looking at postgraduate work. That said, you can have incredibly strong internships. Some of our students do full-time internships post-graduation, and that can count as work experience. And the jobs really are as diverse as the programs are looking at. There is no perfect answer. I know for Fletcher, it really depends. I mean, we have people, everything from, I have a professional ballet dancer who just started the program, to people that come from the private sector, to people who've been sort of more typical for International Affairs Peace Corps or AmeriCorps volunteers. So there is no perfect job. At the end of the day, you want to be building that resume. You want to be gaining skills that are going to help you in your graduate school, and you want to be gaining skills that are going to help you long term. So there isn't a perfect job, and there's not a perfect number of years. I think there are people with 2 years work experience where they've done some really incredible things that are going to have a lot more value and things to contribute in the classroom than someone who might have 10 years experience but not had any movement in their jobs or not done a variety of different things. So it's not necessarily the number of work experiences or years that you get, but it's the value and the quality of the experience that you get. How do we define quality? That's a really hard question. So I really want you to think about what you want to be doing and what the jobs are to get you there. I always suggest going to the people whose jobs you want. Have a mentor whose job you say, oh my gosh, in 5 years I want your job. I want to be doing what you do. And find out what their path was. How did they go to graduate school? What kind of program did they go to? What jobs did they have before doing what they want? Do an informational interview. Have coffee with them. But I think it's really important to sort of see different people's paths. That doesn't mean that has to be your path, but it can help you better define what it is you want to do to help get you there in the long term. I have 2 testimonials here. I went to some of our graduate students just because I think I can tell you all day long that it's important to get work experience, but I think it's important to hear from students on why they like having work experience. So this is Juanita. She's from the U.S. She went to UNC Chapel Hill, and before Fletcher, she had a number of different jobs. She worked for the Department of Justice, the House, the Foundation for Sustainable Development, doing work in Kenya, and she worked for D.C. Public Schools. And she said that one of the greatest value adds of the Fletcher experience was learning from her professors and peers, and really that it enabled her to not only contribute in the classroom, but really grasp that real-world application of skills that you're going to develop. And I think it's really, she sort of brings up that point of you want to have that basis so that when you come to graduate school, you can get so much more out of it when you have work experience. I also spoke with Daniel. He went to Tulane. He's also a U.S. student. Not to say we don't have international students. It just happens to be who I grabbed. But he did Teach for America and was a teacher prior to coming to Fletcher. And he did an internship this summer in Tanzania. And he said really that he and his friends, and this is how actually this came about. He and I were having a conversation, and he said he and his friends were talking. And that they couldn't imagine coming in with no real professional experience because it really helps him collaborate on projects and gains insight working with clients that's going to help him in the classroom environment, and it makes the program that much more challenging. It really helps you better understand what's going on in the classroom and better contribute to peers. It helps you in group projects. It helps you in understanding of coursework. And so, again, it's just a really important thing. And I think the best thing to do is, again, talk to those that have the jobs, but also talk to students in the programs you're looking at. I know all the different programs that I've worked for have had students that are able to answer questions. So at Fletcher, we have a student inbox. The program I worked for prior to this also had a student-answered email inbox. And so talk to students. Find out what they did prior to grad school and why they found that beneficial, because I think it will really help you understand the value of work experience. A little bit about the Fletcher School and why I'm talking to you today is because we really value work experience at Fletcher. Fletcher is located just outside Boston. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we're the oldest exclusively graduate school of international affairs in the U.S. We offer 6 different degree programs. We bring in about 550 students each year, and we have about 270 students that start each fall. So we're graduate only, international affairs only. And within our curriculum, you can really pick and choose the classes that suit you. So we have 22 fields of study. We offer 175 courses per year, but we don't have a set standard curriculum that you have to follow where we tell you what courses to take. So Fletcher is incredibly flexible. That's something that we're known for. We're about 42% international, and we're represented by over 80 countries. And the other thing that's great about Fletcher is you can class register at Tufts, and we're the only program that has full class registration rights at Harvard as well. So again, you pick and choose the courses that best meet your needs. But the other thing that makes Fletcher really unique is that we offer something called Map Your Future. And what that is a program or a pathway into our 2 flagship degrees, the Master of Arts in Law and Diplomacy and the Master of International Business, that allows you to apply as a college senior. So you apply while you're still in school, and you're admitted for 2 to 3 years in the future. So you submit a work plan to Fletcher and say, this is what I'm going to be doing for my 2 years. Sometimes it's 2 full years working someplace. Sometimes it's a year doing one thing and a year doing something else. But it's a really great way for you to get that really important work experience. So at Fletcher, we really value that work experience. Less than, I would say, 5 to 10% that are admitted each fall have no work experience. So most people coming in have at least 2 years. And so the Map Your Future program is a way for students who are still in school to gain that valuable work experience while also being admitted now and getting the application done. It's non-binding, and you are able to sort of, you find out about your admission decision, and then later on you find about scholarships and things like that. But it's a really great way to get those applications done now. As I mentioned, at the end of the day, you do have to find that work experience on your own. Typically, we encourage you to rely on your current undergraduate's career center. But I have students doing a ton of different stuff. I have students who are doing Princeton and Africa, a lot of domestic students for America or Peace Corps, just because that sort of works with the 2-year commitment. I have a student right now working in New York with the Human Rights Watch. I have someone in Boston working with Partners in Health. I've got someone working with Google. So you've got a lot of different options, and really, we just want you doing something at Fletcher that makes sense for your future goals. So we will approve or deny your work plan, but I would say we're not going to deny it outright. We're going to say, oh, for example, I have a student who's teaching in France, but she's only teaching 12 hours a week, and we want full-time employment. So she said, this is what I'm doing, plus I'm tutoring on the side, so that's about 25 hours, but it's not 40. What should I do? And I said, why don't you find some sort of volunteer opportunity? What's your passion? Find that passion, and then you can do a volunteer for that. So she's really interested in human rights, and so she got involved with the Human Rights Film Festival in Paris. So between all of that, she is now fulfilling her Map Your Future employment. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but there are, at the end of the day, we just want you working and gaining those skills that are going to help you both at Fletcher and ultimately in your future career plan. With the Map Your Future program, we do have an application fee waiver. We do have a guaranteed scholarship of $5,000, and you are eligible to get more than that, obviously. Scholarships range from $5,000 to full tuition, but you're guaranteed a minimum $5,000 scholarship. And within the application, you do have an extra essay, and in that, you explain what your employment plans are. So that's where you get the opportunity to say, this is what I'm thinking. Now, when you submit your application, you don't have to secure that employment. You can just say, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And then say you graduate in May or June, you would have to submit that in October. So literally the application right now is due Tuesday for my current second Map Your Future cohort. So by Tuesday, they'll have to have submitted a formal work plan with their employment opportunity. So whether it's a letter from their employer or something like that. But when they submit their application, they just have to say, okay, I'm applying to these 3 internships, or I'm applying to these 3 organizations. So you do have a little bit of leeway there. And if you don't find employment, all we're going to do is extend out that deferral date. So you're at minimum deferred 2-year start, but we're able to defer it more. And actually, I have a student right now who emailed me and she said, I am loving my job. I'm a year in, and I'm not sure I want to start in the fall. I think I want to get a third year of work experience. I can see how important this is. I can see how it's going to help me later on. Can I defer another year? And we said, of course, absolutely. Because work experience is that important to us. So something to think about. The only other thing I will note is that we've lined up our deadlines to match graduation dates. So more often than not, students graduate in December or May. So we have a December deadline and a May deadline. You can apply in December for even if you're not graduating till May, that's fine. But I would say our biggest deadline is in May 15th. And you'll be notified of your decision by July 1. And then again, you have until October to submit that work plan. So we've really tried to line it up nicely for you. So that's a little bit about sort of why work experience, the importance of work experience, and what the Fletcher School has to offer as far as deferred admission. And there's a number of other different programs that offer this as well. There's some MBA programs and things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Allie now, who is going to talk a little bit about deferred admission and some other schools that allow this sort of postponing of the program start date to get work experience.
Hi everyone, my name is Allie and I'm the educational advisor here in Belgium. So that's where I'm logging in from. I am also a current Map Your Future student, which means that I have gone through this deferred admissions process. And so I'm here today to kind of help recap what Liz has already discussed and give you some general information about what exists in terms of deferred admission options in the United States. Deferred admissions just means that you're accepting a school's admission offer right now, even though you're postponing the program's start date. And it means that you're keeping in contact with the school about what you'll be doing, as Liz said, by creating a plan of what jobs you plan to apply for, what skills you hope to gain when you're performing those jobs that you can bring to the grad school with you later on. It's really a great option for people who want to secure an admissions decision right away, whether that be because you're anxious to apply to graduate school or you want to kind of map out what your plans are for the future and get that application process squared away. And it's also good if you're not really sure that you have the skills or a strong enough interest in the field that you're applying to complete a graduate program in. Like Liz said, there are a few other schools that offer a formalized deferred admissions process. Right now, there aren't too many in the U.S. The main ones are Fletcher's School of Law and Diplomacy. Harvard's MBA program also offers an option for undergraduate students to apply if they promise to work for 2 years first, as well as Stanford. The way it's going to work is going to differ from school to school. So it's important that you check the school admissions website to see whether or not the process is formalized. Some schools will also allow you to defer, but it won't be part of the admissions process. It's something that happens after they've extended an offer of admission to you, in which case you'll inform them that you've also been considering work opportunities and ask if you'd be allowed to defer that offer of admission. And it's important to note that you will still be eligible for financial aid when you defer your admissions offer, but you'll be applying for it the semester before you begin. So that's one thing where you do have to wait to do. A good resource to help you find financial aid when you're thinking about applying to professional graduate schools is looking at that www.educationusa.info website. We have a financial aid updates page that gets refreshed weekly with new opportunities, and you'll be able to find an advising center in a country near you. We also have an online YouTube channel where you can hear about the experiences of other international students from them. So they'll talk to you about the application process. The picture that you see here is a woman who's living in Belgium, but she's from Nigeria. And she did an LLM at Georgetown University. She's come back to Belgium to get some professional experience, and now she's thinking about going back to the U.S. for an MBA degree. So you can really see the value of professional experience when you're applying to professional graduate schools in the U.S.